Do you ever feel like manifestation is just another thing on your to-do list that you don't have time for? Like your spiritual practice is something that you have to do? Honestly, you're not alone because I felt that way too. Something that's really changed my relationship with manifestation is blending it into my lifestyle so that no matter what I'm doing, I'm also manifesting. I call this manifestation as a lifestyle, and it's single handedly made the entire manifestation journey more enjoyable for me. And I've seen my desires show up with a lot more ease. Manifesting as a lifestyle has made manifestation go from feeling like a task to something I just naturally do because it's who I am. If you'd like to learn more about this, I've created a step by step guide for you. I'll link it in my show notes so you can check it out. You're listening to the Affirmation Addict podcast with Pyle Corley. This podcast will teach you about the power of affirmations while making manifestation easy and accessible for you in order to enhance your spiritual consciousness. Thank you so much for being here, and now it's time to get started. Hi, everyone, and welcome back to the Affirmation Addict podcast. My name is Pyle, and oh my gosh, it's been a bit. I feel like this is the longest break I've taken this year from the podcast. If you guys have been listening to the podcast for a while, you know I used to go through big waves, like super consistent and then a few months, super consistent, then a few months break. This time it was full travel mode. Like we were gone almost all of July, and I feel like I'm finally back and grounded. Literally, it's mid-August at this point, but I think I needed that recoup. I feel like I learned so much over this past month because it was so much travel. We had family travel, we had friends travel, we had family weddings, and then there was a Lionsgate portal. Like so much has happened in this past like 6 weeks, I feel like. However, it has been so eye-opening for me, and I don't want to talk about myself today. What I do want to talk about, I thought it would be really inspiring because I was thinking, what did I need these past few weeks? And I really feel like I needed a boost of faith. And so this episode is called a faith boost. And it's basically, I want to remind you through my own experiences that happened this past 6 weeks that energy literally can shift overnight. So this episode for you, you can think of it like a pep talk. You can think of it like just a reminder that things can actually shift overnight. And I don't want you to take this out of context. And I don't want you to think I'm implying that, like, okay, well, manifestation can happen overnight and it's meant to happen overnight every single time. That's not what I'm implying. What I'm implying is like when you're kind of in that cycle where you've been putting in the work, you've been doing your affirmations, you've been making the effort towards your spiritual practice, like you've been doing all the things, but you're starting to lose faith because you're like, okay, I'm putting in all the work that everyone told me to do. Where is my desire? Obviously, if you've been listening to this podcast for a while, you know logically that searching only creates more searching. So there's already something off there. However, I don't want to bypass the very valid and normal feeling where it's like you're doing all of the actions, but why isn't there something happening? Why is there no shifts in energy that you're seeing? And maybe there's subtle shifts, but they're not big enough to give you the motivation to keep going. That is a very real thing. And that is something I was dealing with very personally these past 6 weeks. And ultimately, I kind of kept moving forward. I was like, you know what? What if? Then the question I asked myself, and it was honestly, I think the most game changing question I've ever asked myself, where I was like, what if today's the day? What if? Because kind of when you keep putting in the work, you kind of get used to waiting and you kind of expect more waiting. That becomes our normal. Like you're like, okay, I'm putting in the work, little things manifest, little things shift, but that big thing or the kind of blow your mind away or surprised goal happening, that feels a little far-fetched. That feels a little crazy. So we almost normalize and expect waiting. We're like, okay, it works. Like it brings me a little bit of peace throughout the day. It brings me a little bit of satisfaction, but that's it. Nothing major, nothing crazy, right? And that's where I was. I was in this place where I was like doing all the things, doing all the right things forward, kind of taking that consistent action that we talk about. I was doing the work, but I was like, why is my mind like not being blown right now? And I was starting to lose faith. And when you start to get into that position of losing faith and almost like expecting it, where it's like, you know what? I am at peace. If it doesn't happen, I'll be slightly disappointed, to be completely honest. But like, if it's not meant to, it's not meant to, right? You're in that kind of, you're teetering on like losing faith, borderline disappointment. And the thing I asked myself where I was like, what will motivate me to keep going? And the question I said is, I was like, what if today's the day? What if I knew with certainty and kind of full confidence that today is the day? And even just thinking that thought, not even holding the thought, not even believing it, just exploring that thought, even right now, me saying that out loud just like perked up my energy. I literally just was like, I was like, wow, like, what if today's the day? Like, that's an interesting perspective. That's kind of refreshing. That's a little bit exciting. That's a little bit more motivating for me. And acknowledging, because I think like it can be very easy to try and pretend that you don't care about your desire, but it's like we do care. Why are we here? We do care about our desires, but there's those kind of subtle levels of like you care, but you are not dependent on it. But it's also okay to acknowledge that you're a little bit disappointed that it's not happening. So that's where this episode comes in, where it's like, you know what? It's okay that you're losing a little bit of faith. I think we all lose faith a little bit at some point, and that's a very normal thing to do. I experience this all the time. I will never lie to you and say I've always had full faith. Like, no, I lose faith. I go back into my practice, and that reestablishes my faith. Like my spiritual practice, the reason I'm always advocating for keeping a consistent practice is because it is actually what helps me keep my faith. It is actually what helps me navigate the very natural ups and downs. Your spiritual practice isn't meant to eliminate any negative thoughts. It's meant to help you navigate and help you kind of mitigate those negative thoughts rather than eliminate. So there's a very subtle difference. So what I invite you to do, if you feel like your energy is a little bit off, you're starting to lose faith, you're starting to want to skip your practice, skip it for today. No pressure on it. Just ask yourself, this can literally be the only thing you do today, is ask yourself, what if today's the day? And really just sit in thought. Don't have to do anything. You don't have to embody it, but just reflect on it and like let that stream of consciousness go and let yourself follow those thoughts. Answer the questions. What if today is the day? What if today is the day it manifests? Then what? Does that immediately make your kind of fears and doubts go away? Does that immediately bring a little bit of excitement? Like even just temporarily, that is how quickly energy can shift. So personally for me, from a storytime perspective, this actually had to do with the consistency challenge. I didn't even talk about it on the podcast because I was in my little break. So I'm so sorry if you missed out on the consistency challenge for the Lionsgate portal. It was so much fun. I posted about it all on my Instagram and my emails. So if you ever feel like you're not hearing about what I'm doing on the podcast, Instagram and my email list is a great way to learn all the things that I'm doing. But I essentially set a goal. I wanted a certain amount of people. I was like, this would be so nice if I could get this amount of people to come into the challenge with me and just really harness the energy of the Lionsgate portal. I was so inspired by it this year. I just felt like it was such a big energy shift. And oh my gosh, it was such a big energy shift. And I set this goal. And to be completely transparent, I was so scared of setting this goal because I've had like a recurring pattern where I'll set certain goals in my business and I won't meet them. And so it's kind of like that. I'm expecting myself not to meet the goal. However, logically, like attracts like, law of attraction, when you're expecting yourself not to meet the goal, there's a high chance you won't meet the goal because you're kind of expecting that is what you're attracting. So, and I know this, right? So here I am sitting in this thought overthinking spiral where I'm like, I have a goal. I would love to meet it. I'm also expecting myself not to meet it because I have so much fear and I have so much doubt and insecurity about it. And I just felt so like back and forth where you know the logical theories of manifestation, but then it's hard to sometimes embody them because it's kind of distracting you and you're really being tested in your faith. So I had the challenge. I talked about it, whatever. I did all the things that I was planning on doing. And ultimately, and I think this is what changed it, where I asked myself the question, what if this is the time where things change? What if this is the time where I actually can hit those goals again? Because I haven't hit my like business goals that I've set for myself in a little while. And then because of that, I haven't set them in a while. So it's like, I'm doing this to myself. I'm totally self-sabotaging myself because I make it mean something about me, which is, we know, not the answer. So I was like, you know what? What if this is the time where the energy does get to shift? What if I'm allowed to just have fun? What if today is the day? What if this is the time that it shifts? And I will not lie to you, during me talking about the challenge, I was checking numbers. My goals were not fully being met, but I was like, okay, it's fine. Like, not a problem. I'll try again next time. You know, like I was kind of just regulating and self-soothing almost, kind of expecting it not to happen. I didn't have any expectation of it happening, that's for sure. And I wasn't going to be surprised if it didn't happen, but I wasn't like, okay, obviously I'm done. And I wasn't like preemptively, I don't know what the word is. I wasn't presuming that it wasn't like, I wasn't throwing in the towel before it finished. I continued forward. And I think that was such a big thing I shifted, because if I looked at myself in the past, I knew the things I needed to do. I knew the actions I needed to take to talk about my challenge, right? I needed to send emails, needed to talk about it on socials, like all the normal business marketing tasks I needed to do. So I needed to post about it. I needed to talk about the challenge. But I have a tendency of, if it's not going kind of my way, I will stop. I'll stop talking about it. So I stop taking action ultimately before the time period, right, is done. So I would normally, this challenge started on 8/8, on August 8th. I would probably stop talking about it on like August 4th. If by August 4th I didn't meet my goal, I would just get disappointed and stop talking about it. The different thing I did this time was I was like, I'm going to continue forward. I'm going to enjoy this process, because why not? Why am I not allowed to enjoy the process even if I don't meet that goal? Even if I do meet the goal, like, can I have fun during this process? And what if this is the time? What if this is the pattern shift? What if this is the time that I break the pattern that I've been holding for a few years? So what I did differently is I kept moving forward. And I did a lot of reflecting as to like, what is that gut fear? And it was very hard for me to keep moving forward. I would wait until like 9 p.m. to do some of the work. Like, I was very much so battling me showing up and taking action, but I continued. And honestly, I was so blown away, because not only did I exceed my goals, I literally doubled my goal. And from a business perspective, if you're a business owner or you're with numbers and you know how this stuff works, like, I haven't doubled, like actually doubled and exceeded that double. Actually 2.5x is what I did. I haven't doubled a goal I've made for myself in my business specifically in a very long time. And that felt like such a powerful shift. And it felt like the biggest validation, where I was like, oh my gosh, like, I chose to not do this for, oh, I have to make a certain amount. I wanted to help a certain amount of people. I wanted to have fun along the way. And I wanted to do this for myself. Like, my intentions, I kept showing up. I kept revisiting my why and being like, okay, I'm allowed to do this. I'm allowed to have fun. And I kind of used my past I was almost like scarred from my past. I used my past disappointments as information and wisdom to help myself move forward during this time and act a little bit differently. And the energy literally did shift overnight, because I was saying August 4th, nothing really happened. Literally August 6th, 7th, and 8th were the 3 days where I completely was able to welcome so many people in the most unexpected way. And it was so beautiful to be proven wrong. Like, when I get proven wrong by the universe, it is the best thing, because I'm like, I don't know everything. And it takes off that pressure from myself. And so I want to remind you that energy can shift overnight. Theoretically, this is not overnight, right? But like, it can shift in the sense where like the little micro moments, the little micro actions you're taking, the questions you're asking yourself, the decision to take the action you really don't want to take and just see how it goes, the decision to follow through with what you set out to do, the decision to ask yourself a hard question, the decision to just ask, hey, what if today's the day, and let yourself feel good for a second. Like, those are the things I did. I didn't do any massive, like, long meditations and visualizations. I actually did no visualization for this. All I did was I was focusing on my energy through the process. And I was like, I don't want to be in a scared, fear-based space. I want to shift that. And that was my focus. And I was like, I want to shift that. I want to come from a place of love, and I want to help people, because I think I need this. And if I need this, I know I'm not the only one. That was the energy I came with. And so allowing yourself to be really clear about what your intentions are. We sometimes get convoluted with other people's intentions, how other people run their businesses or how other people's marriages are, right? Like, if you're manifesting a certain relationship, like, we tend to get so polluted in how things should be that we forget to be like, hey, it's allowed to be this fun. It's allowed to be today. Like, I'm allowed to shift my energy today. And so I know I'm kind of talking about a couple different points, but I want to remind you that energy can shift overnight, and it doesn't have to be huge, massive actions you're taking. It can be as simple as just doing the one thing you said you were going to do and moving the needle a little bit forward. I think I've always had this perspective where to make a big change, you need big action. But no, it's actually to make a big change, you need just smaller actions, and that's possible. Like literally, these actions took 20 to 30 seconds, and that's what actually made the shift. So energy can shift overnight. Today is the day. Today can be the day, and let yourself explore that. Let yourself get curious with that. And so I hope this episode was helpful. A little bit of a story time, a little bit of just a faith booster that you're allowed to shift and you're allowed to be easy on yourself. And it's so normal to lose faith in the process. I will not lie to you. I will not sugarcoat it. I want to be 100% transparent. I lose faith in the process all the time. What restores my faith in the process, though, is me continuing to do the little things. And that's why I blend manifestation into my lifestyle. Not because it's another technique. It's because when you're in a state of like you don't have faith and you don't know what to do, sometimes all you can do is think of an affirmation while you're brushing your teeth or infuse a certain intention while you're drinking water. That's sometimes the only like capacity we have because we feel so unsafe in the manifestation space. So manifestation as a lifestyle, that technique, that philosophy has really helped me kind of keep moving forward even when I don't want to, because there's options. It's not one structure you have to follow. You can pick and choose. You can piece it together in the way that works for you on that day, and it meets you where you're at. So if you do want to learn more about manifestation as a lifestyle, I have a step-by-step guide for you. The link is in the show notes. You're welcome to grab that guide and get instant access to it. But other than that, I really, really hope that this episode, this little rant was a faith boost for you. I hope it kind of gave you that little spark of energy and the inspiration that you needed. And other than that, I will see you next week. Bye. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for listening, and I hope you enjoyed today's episode. If this episode resonated with you, it would mean the world to me if you could rate and review the podcast and share it on your social media so I know to keep creating episodes that are inspiring you to manifest. I'm so genuinely grateful for the time we shared today, and I'd love for you to join the community by following @AffirmationAddict on Instagram. To continue diving into spirituality and manifestation, head over to my website, affirmation-addict.com. Until next time, I'm sending you so much love and so much healing energy.